Raheem, you've been watching the protests here and in America. I wonder what your response has been. What's gone through your head?
Yeah, it's been hard to take in over the week or so. It's quite tragic what's happened to him. I just want to say first and foremost, I want to send my condolences to George Floyd's family. To see any human treated in that way, it's unacceptable. Yeah, I've been having time to reflect, and um, you know, it's just really sad to see something like that sparked, debates now in our country, for it to happen over there. Um, this is things that's been happening in our country for the last God knows how long. Police brutality. There's been 15 plus shootings in the last 30 years from police in this country, and none have, resulted in any police officers being convicted or charged. So it's one of those where it's a touching subject, but it's not anything new to us, even in this country.
Did it make you want to join the protests here?
Um, I think the protest is it's all it's a great starting point, to start protesting, to get your voice be heard, because this is how people are getting their voices heard. But at the same time, people in positions which I'm lucky enough to be in, this is a time to speak on these subjects, speak on injustice especially in my field. This is something I always try to say to family, friends, and people around me that always ask, what do you think of this? I can only kind of touch on topics that I see on everyday issues in my field. I think there's something like 500 players in the Premier League, and only a third of them are black, and we have no representation of us in the hierarchy. No representations of us in coaching staffs. There's not a lot of faces that we can relate to and have conversations with. And I do think with these protests that are going on, it's all well and good just talking, but it's time that we need to have conversations to be able to spark debates, and not just debates, because we've done a lot of talking, to actually start implementing change.
Are you optimistic that these protests will now lead to the kind of concrete change that you're talking about?
Yeah, and I said, as I said before, the peaceful protesting, this is how your voice gets heard. But at the same time, you need to have people fighting on the forefront, giving, valid points and, situations in everyday lives, everyday walks of life, speaking on these subjects, and, bringing it to the necessary people, and keep fighting for change. But, just protesting alone is not gonna, make a change in this country. We have to keep talking, keep fighting, and hopefully we do see change.
So what's the one single difference then? You think it's manager representation in black and ethnic minorities, do you? Or what's the one single thing you'd say has to change and could change really easily that would send the clearest message?
It's not just, as I said, I'm speaking on my field. I come from the football industry. Someone like Anthony Joshua from the boxing industry, he can talk on the injustice he sees in his field. But at the same time, it's coming together and finding a solution to be able to spark change, because we can talk as much as we want about changing and putting black people in these positions that I do feel they should be in. For example, the coach, as I always refer back to the footballing, the coaching staffs that you see around football clubs. I'll give a perfect one. There's Steven Gerrard, your Frank Lampards, you have your Sol Campbells, and you have your Ashley Coles. All had great careers. All played for England, but at the same time, they've all respectfully done their coaching badges. To coach at the highest level. And the two that haven't been given the right opportunities are the two black former players.
You once said that there's never a time in your life in England that you've received racism outside of football. Is that still true?
Um, I did make that comment, and the comment I did say was once when I was walking to school, but that was when I moved out of London to Liverpool. But yeah, growing up in London, you got to remember, growing up in London, I come from an estate where, all I do see is, black people or, people from different, minority backgrounds. You don't really see different cultures until you venture out, or I should say, don't see white people as much as you probably would do if I went up to Liverpool. So, I wasn't really exposed to certain things, and, moving up north kind of changed that. And that's when I started to, experience these racist comments.
I wonder whether you think things are getting better or have got worse than when you were a young kid or when you were coming of age.
I definitely say people are listening now. I definitely say, the country on a whole is, growing and getting better, communicating with each other. As you see in the protesting, it's not just black people that are out there protesting. It's, black, white, Asian, and everyone can see the injustice that's happening, and everybody is, voicing their concerns, that they want change. And, as I said before, this is the time that I feel like, we need to continue to talk, continue to have these debates, and, hopefully try to find the right solutions, which the right solutions are, if we're going to have, police, that commit such crimes, there should be, people from black backgrounds that are higher up in the police force and the police departments to be able to have a say on, their punishment.
On a very small level, you memorably called out the Daily Mail for representing you and other black teammates as, troublemaker or flashy or tight, always talking about the way you were spending money or not spending money, and you commented on that. I wonder if you think since then the coverage has changed as a result of you just pointing that out.
Yeah, I feel, I think a lot more newspapers are careful, in the wordings and the words that they, use to describe players and athletes. It was one of those, it was just something that I could see, and it's the reason why I felt I needed to speak up was not just for myself, this was something I was looking for. I've got two boys of my own now, and I just imagine them playing football, and if I didn't say something at that moment in time, would they still be, if they did play, football, would they still be facing this sort of judgment and this sort of, criticism that wasn't, necessary? So it was one of those that I felt like I needed to say something to, kind of make people understand the words that they use are damaging, and, can really affect people and how they see things and think.
And when it's on the pitch, whether it's your own experiences with racism or looking forward to a future for, let's say, your boys, do you think racism is being dealt with now in a way that stops it happening again?
But as I say, racism isn't just, calling someone black or calling someone white. I'll give you the perfect example. And I always have this conversation with my friends. It's, I'm from Northwest London. I grew up seeing my mom struggle. I grew up seeing my, mom's mom struggle. Everyone lives on the same estate as me. They're all black. And it's not at that moment in time, you see your mom struggling, you see your grandma struggling, and you have no hope within yourself. You have no hope to feel, I can do better than what they have achieved in life. So it kind of gives us, as I said, it's not just about color, black or white. It's about the system that we're placed in. We're given a lesser chance to succeed. If I don't see my mom succeed, what am I most likely to do? I'm most likely to, give up all hope. But luckily for me, I was one of the lucky ones to, get out of that system. And, when I do go back into those areas now and see some of my friends that do live there, it gives me an eye opener to actually what sort of prison myself that used to live in. You're in there, and at the time you don't actually know that you're trapped until you get out. And I can see this with a lot of the youths that are in these estates and not given the same opportunity and chances and privilege as some other people in the country.
Do you think this will be a pivotal moment? I mean, have you been surprised by the numbers and the force of feeling on the street, or do you think it's going to just go away as strong as the feeling is?
Yeah, as I said, it's a start. The protesting. This is a start to be, make your voice be heard. But then it's how we move on from here. And as I said, it's about highlighting, aspects and things in society that needs changing, and then acting upon it. There's, as I keep saying, we've done a lot of talking, and it's time now to act.
Well, when you say act, we've seen, for example, photos of players taking the knee, very visible sign. In America, they've done that ahead of live games. Is that something that you'd like to see here in a game? Players taking the knee. Would you do that?
Taking a knee, I understand. As again, it's another form of protesting, and as I say, I want change. The change is being able to speak to people in Parliament, people at the hierarchy at my football club, not just my football club, the football clubs across the country, people at the national team with England, to implement change and give equal chances to black coaches, and it's not just coaches but people in their respective fields, the right opportunity. I feel like that's what's lacking here. It's not just taking a knee, it's about giving people the chance and they deserve.
When you talk about taking the message to the top, we heard from the Home Secretary today, and she was talking about the protests on the street, and she said they should stop and not go ahead because they're illegal. They clearly contradict all social distancing regulation. I wonder what your message would be to her, and whether you think which should come first right now.
I know this might sound a little bit cheesy, but the only disease right now is the racism that we're fighting. I think this right now, this is the most important thing at this moment in time, because this is something that's been happening for years and years, and just like the pandemic, we want to find a solution to stop it. And at the same time, this is what all these protesters are doing. They're trying to find a solution and a way to stop the injustice that they're seeing, and they're fighting for their cause. And I think this is, as long as they're doing it peacefully and safely, and not hurting anybody or any store or breaking into any stores, I think they continue to protest in this peaceful way.
Did it worry you when you saw some of the violent elements in the protests?
Yeah, that's the last thing you want to see. You don't want to see anybody hurt in the process of this. People are protesting because they're tired. They're tired of what they're seeing, and the people just want change. And this is exactly why they're out on the streets. But I would say this, to be sure, is to be safe on the streets and keep doing what you're doing. But at the same time, we can't just protest. We have to also act and talk to the right people. And that's why I'm here to you today to get this message heard even more.
You said that the only disease at the moment that matters, or the most important thing, is racism. I wonder what you think when the government's brought out this report saying that black and ethnic minority people are more vulnerable to COVID-19, to coronavirus. And your mum's a director of a care home, isn't she? I just wonder if it's brought things very close to home, hearing that.
Yeah, it's one of those where it is scary to think why it's of more of a risk to and from the stats that I've seen, it's affected more black people than anybody else, not just BAME communities. So yeah, it is scary. As I said, we have to keep safe, keep to the guidelines, and be safe.
Did you? Am I right in thinking you lost family members to coronavirus?
Yeah, I've lost two, one family member and a close family friend. Yes.
And do you feel that enough has been done to highlight that the inequalities of the way this disease has hit people?
No, I don't feel like it's been explained. I don't feel like it's, why is it more likely that someone from a black background or a BAME background is more likely to, suffer and from this disease. I feel like there should be more of an explanation on this, and I don't think our health and our risk is taken seriously. For example, me going back into football now, with this risk, I'm fine, going back, because at this moment in time, the club and the Premier League have been so done things with so much thought and carefulness. So I have no worries on that aspect. But in the other walks of life, people want to know if they're going to go back into their workplace, if they're going to be safe. And I don't think there's been too much explained to us why it's affecting us much more than any other race.
Do you feel that it's all happening too quickly? I mean, football's going back next week. I know it's different for, you've said you don't worry about that for yourself, but do you feel that we are going back to work or out of lockdown too quickly? It was going to be at some point we would have to go back to work, and when it was deemed safe to do so, which the government and the Premier League in the football industry has deemed it safe to go back now. So the rates have dropped in cases and people dying, as I said, but the precaution measures that they are taking at the football clubs and the training facilities is top notch. I can't knock that. But for places like school, other workplaces, it's still a massive risk. You're going to have a lot of children in schools that are probably not as hygienic as most adults would be, and there will be a lot more germs and stuff in classrooms. But I hope the school and whoever are in charge are taking these precautions really seriously. You must have thought quite hard about speaking out on this. It's never easy to be the person who just says, right, this is the time and people are expecting to hear from me and I've got to say something. I know John Boyega, the actor, said, I don't know if I'll have a career after this, when he was speaking at the protest. Does the job become much harder when you speak out?
To be fair, first and foremost, I don't really think about my job when things like this happen. I think about what is right. And at this moment in time, there's only so much people can take. There's only so much, communities and, other backgrounds can take, especially black people. It's been going on for hundreds of years, and, people are tired. People are ready for change. And I keep saying this word. I say, I see a lot of people on socials and stuff, supporting the cause. But, this is something that needs more than just talking. We need to actually implement change and highlight the places that do need changes. But this is something that I myself, will continue to do, and spark these debates and, get people in my industry, looking at themselves and thinking, what they can do to, give people an equal chance in this country. And hopefully, other industries as well can do that in everyday society and, the system as well.
When will you know that this movement has been successful? When will you know it's achieved the goals that, you are setting it now?
As I said, when there's more black people in positions, like I keep going back to my football because that's my field. But when I can have someone from a black background for me to be able to go to in the FA with a problem I have within the club. These will be the times that I know that change is happening, and not just in my field. Also in Parliament. There's, I think, what is it in Parliament? 600 MPs? Is it 600 MPs in Parliament?
Yeah, more or less 650. Yeah, more or less.
600 or something MPs in Parliament, and only 21 of them are black. So this just shows, how far behind we are, and once we do see those numbers shifting, that's when I'll be happy, and the people will be happy.
Is it to do with the money? I mean, I know you've spoken in the past about that. This is a different point, and I hear you about representation, but when you've spoken in the past about the way that racial abuse is punished, it's like piddly little fines, and you've said we need point bans, or we need sponsorship to think differently about clubs, or we need to stop games. I mean, how far would you go to say, you've done a lot of thinking about this, how do you get racism out of the stands? in terms of not racism, but racist abuse?
First and foremost, it's having people, as I said, from these backgrounds and having the understanding of how it feels to be racially abused. So, if, for example, someone, what happened to us in, Bulgaria, I think it was, their FA can't, find them the way or give them a ban which is deemed necessary to them, because they don't understand the feeling of it. But I would go as extreme as possible. I think people need to understand, when a club gets charged a certain amount of money, this is only so much this can do. There has to be something that people have to think not just twice, but more than twice, if they're going to actually say these things and have these gestures in stadiums and in society.
Raheem Sterling, thank you very much.
Thank you.